Hi everybody, today we're going to look at calculating the mean, median, mode, and standard deviation in both Excel and Desmos. For this example, I'm going to look at how many Starbucks there are in each state. I grabbed this information from GB Times, published on July 12th of 2024. I copy and pasted the data from the article directly into Excel. So we can see each state, the number of Starbucks locations, and I have that for all 50 states. So we want to find the mean, median, and mode. Those are our measures of center. We also want to find the standard deviation. To show you the difference between the standard deviation of a sample and a standard deviation of the population, we'll calculate both. So we'll find the STDEVS for sample and STDEVP for population. Here I'm using the symbols you'll see in Excel instead of the S and sigma we usually use when talking about the different types of standard deviation. To find the mean, I go into the cell where I want the number to appear and I push equals. This tells Excel to do math. Excel uses the word average to represent the mean, so I can start by just typing in average and you'll see that different choices appear. And the first one is what we want to use. You could also click on the FX, which will give you a list of functions. You could go down to statistical, which will have a list of everything. And then when you click on the different words, it tells you what the function does. This says the average returns the average or arithmetic mean of its arguments. That's exactly what we want. Once I have my function selected, I need to highlight all of the numbers I want to use. So I'll start with the 143 for Alabama and then scroll down to the end to get to Wyoming. Then I push enter. It says the average is 185.48. If your cell is too small, you might only see 185, so you may need to expand it to get the decimal points. Let's do the same thing for the median. I'm going to type equals and then median. Again, you see the choice appears and it tells me that the median returns the median or the number in the middle of the set of given numbers. Remember, you need a parenthesis before you highlight the numbers. This returns a value of 143. To get the mode, I type equals, I type mode, I put my parenthesis, and then I highlight my cells. This is the most frequent number of Starbucks per state is 243. To get the standard deviation, I hit equals. If you start typing STDEV, you see a lot of choices. We want the sample, so I'm going to click down where it says STDEV.S. This says it estimates the standard deviation based on a sample. So I'm going to select this one, highlight the number of Starbucks per state, push enter, and it gives me 222.7507. We're going to repeat that with the standard deviation for the population, STDEV, and then we'll grab P, where it says calculate standard deviation based on the entire population, and again, highlight all of the cells. Let's talk about Y. Let me again click equals and type STDEV and go to the sample. Notice it says estimates the standard deviation. The estimate is because we have a sample, we don't have the population. So we're making a prediction when we don't have the whole data set. If we read the description for the standard deviation of the population, it says it calculates the standard deviation. So a sample is an estimation, versus the standard deviation of population is a calculation because we have all the data for the set. Having the entire population says the accuracy is better, but many times we don't have the data for an entire population and we're forced to use a sample. So make sure as you're doing your homework, your quizzes, whatever assignment that you're doing, that you pay attention to the wording. When you do mean, median, and mode, the calculations are the same whether you have a sample or a population. But when we're looking at standard deviation, we want to make sure we distinguish between having a sample and a population. This will continue to be important throughout our entire course. We always want to make sure we know what kind of data we're working with. Let's take a look at this same information in Desmos. So I am going to highlight all of the data values. I'm going to leave off the state names and I'm going to copy. In Desmos, I'm going to paste this data. Before I do that, I'm going to go into my first line. I'm going to type S equals and then hit Control V to paste. This way, I already have a name to my data and I don't have to go back to the beginning and put it in. You can go back to the beginning and put in the name for it if you need to, but that little shortcut of putting the S in first helps. I call it S for Starbucks. Now to get my measures of central tendency, I type mean of S. I type median of S. And then if you try to type mode, notice it didn't recognize that. It knows mod. Mod's a different operation, but it doesn't have mode. So to get around not having the mode, we could visually represent the data. We could type a histogram and then hit the zoom so it graphs it, and I will have it left align. Now I can see there's this value that's really high and is definitely the mode, but it's hard to tell what that is. So on top of that, we could put a dot plot. With the dot plot, I can click on the dot. This tells me there are 11 states that have 243 Starbucks. To get the standard deviation, I can type STDEV and then put in S. It gives me the 222.75, but this time I didn't get that understanding of am I using the sample or am I using the total population. You could open the keyboard, go to the functions, scroll down to statistics, and you'll see STDEV and STDEVP. This is how you distinguish between the two types of standard deviation. STDEVP will do the population, we'll put in S, and we get the 220.51197 that we got over in Excel. So you have two really great choices on how to do mean, median, mode, standard deviation very quickly using technology. It's really up to you as to which one you're going to use, and maybe you'll use a little of both.